You ever have a dream that punches you in the face just when you thought it was about to come true?
Yeah.
That's the story I'm about to tell you. And trust me, it ain't one of those everything happens for a reason fairy tales. Thank you very much for watching and please subscribe. My name's Mark, 38. Lived most of my life believing in hard work, loyalty, and that everything eventually balances out if you keep doing the right thing. I had a wife, a house, a dog named Taco, don't ask, and the kind of ambition that makes people roll their eyes at you at dinner parties. That was all before I opened the damn bakery. Not even a fancy bakery. Just Mark's Morning Rise. Warm bread, strong coffee, and cinnamon rolls that could make you forget your ex. I sunk everything into that place. My savings, my time, my faith. For a minute, it looked like it might just work. The mornings started early, like 3:30 a.m. early, and the oven became more familiar than my own bed. Customers trickled in, locals mostly, the kind who still believe in buying local and asking how your weekend went. There was Mrs. Tran who came in every Thursday for almond croissants. Doug, the high school janitor who thought my coffee was better than the chain shop down the street. And this one teenage girl who always bought a muffin and sat in the corner writing in a journal like she was going to be the next J.K. Rowling. It wasn't just a shop. It was a little ecosystem of oddballs, caffeine addicts, and cinnamon addicts. It was mine. Then the problems came knocking, like they always do. First, my rent doubled. The landlord blamed market conditions, which I guess is code for some developer wants to turn this block into yoga studios and vape lounges. Then one of my suppliers, the one who brought me flour from a mill upstate, went out of business. I tried switching to store-bought. Didn't taste the same. Customers noticed. They always notice. The nail in the coffin was Paul, my business partner. We weren't friends exactly, but we were solid. I did the baking, he did the books. One day he comes in with that glazed over look in his eyes and tells me he's leaving. Not leaving town. Not even starting another bakery. No. He was heading to Bali to become a wellness coach. I asked him what that even meant. He said, helping people align their vibrations. I told him to align himself with a one-way ticket. So it was just me. Me and the rent and the bills and the busted espresso machine that leaked like a guilty man under interrogation. I tried to hold it together, cut the hours, trimmed the menu, slept on a cot in the back room more than once. The day it all ended started like any other. I burned the first batch of scones, spilled coffee grounds all over my apron, and got yelled at by a customer who didn't understand that out of croissants meant, well, out. By noon, the final nail hit. An eviction notice taped to the front window like a middle finger from fate. I stood there staring at it while Taco licked spilled cream cheese off the floor. He had no idea. To him, life was still full of belly rubs and squirrels to bark at. I envied him. That night, I sat in the darkened shop with a bottle of whiskey, a half-eaten bagel, and a rerun of the evening news humming in the background. And that's when I saw it. A report about a small, local bank a few blocks away. Some fluff piece about how they still do things the old-fashioned way. One security guard. Limited cameras. Cash-only deposits on Fridays. The news anchor laughed. I didn't. My mind, fried and half-drunk, started spinning in ways it never had before. Started as a joke. Or at least that's what I told myself. Hey Taco, I said the next morning, pouring the last of the milk into a cracked cereal bowl. What if I just robbed the place? That'd solve our problems, huh? Taco yawned. He didn't say no. I opened my laptop and typed, "How to rob a bank," into the search bar. Not my proudest moment, but hey, if the NSA is watching, they probably already have a folder on me labeled Middle-Aged Meltdown. Most of the results were garbage, movie plots, Reddit threads full of keyboard warriors, and one truly unhinged blog that suggested disguising yourself as a clown. I hate clowns. But once you start reading, you start thinking. And once you start thinking, it's hard to stop. I took notes. Times, shifts, blueprints I found from the city's open data archive. It was all just curiosity, a mental escape hatch, like Sudoku for the criminally inclined. Then I ran into Jerry. Jerry and I went way back. We were the kind of friends who never talked for 6 months but could meet up and be on the same wavelength like nothing happened. He was an electrician now, owned his own van, lived alone, divorced, looked like he hadn't slept well since 2015. "You look like hell," he told me as we sipped beers on his back porch. "You should see my bank account," I replied. He laughed. I didn't. I told him about the bakery, the eviction, the news segment. I dropped the idea like a dead fish on the table and waited to see what he'd do. He laughed again. "Jesus, Mark, you've lost it." "Just spitballing," I said. "Pure fantasy." "You're serious though, aren't you?" I didn't answer. Not directly. But I told him the plan. Nothing crazy. No guns. No hostages. Just a clever in and out during a known security gap. Timing, nerves, and a little electricity tampering. He had the skills. I had the motivation. He listened. Too long. "You're insane," he finally said. But it came out soft. I left that night not knowing if he was in or out. Didn't matter. I had enough in my head to do it alone. But I hoped. 3 days passed. No call. I sent him a message. No reply. Then, the fourth night, I saw the car. Parked across the street. Not a neighbor. Not a delivery. Just there. Lights off. Engine idling. Like a bad omen with tinted windows. Taco growled. First time I'd ever heard him growl. For the next 2 days, I lived like someone was watching me. Because, well, they probably were. I stopped using my phone. Started taking different routes to the store. Turned off every light in the house after dark and kept my curtains closed tight. Taco didn't like the change. Neither did I. I sent Jerry one last message. "You talk to someone? Just be straight with me." Nothing. I was in my kitchen pouring coffee into a chipped mug when I saw the same car again. This time parked half a block down. Subtle. But not subtle enough. I should have stopped there. Pulled back. Burned the notebook. But I was too far gone. You know when you've invested so much into something, even if it's doomed, you feel like quitting would make it all pointless? Yeah. That. So I made a burner phone. I started writing the heist plan out with fake names, disguising it like a short story. Like fiction would protect me. Didn't. Friday morning, I woke up to the sound of my front door being shattered off its hinges. Taco barked like hell. I hit the floor instinctively. Police. Search warrant. Guns. Vests. Boots. Yelling. Someone slammed me into the hardwood so hard my teeth clicked. They cuffed me in my boxers. I couldn't stop laughing. This some kind of joke? You guys bust down every baker who Googles bank robbery? They weren't laughing. At the station, they laid it all out. My search history. My notes. My blueprints. My conversations with Jerry. Turns out my buddy had gone straight to the cops. "He was worried about you," the detective said. "Said you were spiraling. Said you might do something stupid." I looked him dead in the eye. He wasn't wrong. They didn't charge me with anything yet. No crime had been committed. But they held me, questioned me, made sure I knew they'd be watching. Then they let me go. I walked home past the same car that had been tailing me. This time the guy inside waved. I waved back. When I got inside, I poured a drink, lit a cigarette, and wrote Jerry's name on a napkin. Then I tore it in half. I should have seen it coming. Loyalty doesn't buy what it used to. There are few things more humiliating than being arrested in your underwear. One of them is the moment after, when you're sitting in a plastic chair, cuffed to a metal table, realizing just how stupid you must look from the other side of the glass. They played good cop, bad cop. Classic routine. One guy offered me coffee. The other one threatened me with prison time like he was handing out flyers. I gave them sarcasm. It's my only defense mechanism. "You boys got any donuts? I hear jail coffee pairs well with maple glaze." They weren't amused. They grilled me for hours. Wanted to know if I'd talked to anyone else. Wanted me to admit I was serious. I told them it was research for a screenplay, that I was a struggling writer, that it was all fiction. They didn't buy it. "We have your messages to Jerry." I thought this was America. Since when is fantasizing illegal? They held me overnight. Said they needed to talk to the DA. But I knew they didn't have enough to charge me. Not really. No stolen goods. No weapons. No crime. Just one very dumb baker with a crushed dream and a habit of thinking out loud. They released me the next day with a warning and a court date for some ridiculous charge about conspiracy to commit theft. Misdemeanor. Slap on the wrist. But the damage was done. My name was in the system. My record stained. No job would touch me. My reputation? Toast. And not the good kind with butter. I went home. Taco greeted me like I just returned from a grocery run. Dogs are pure that way. I opened a fresh notebook. First page. Confessions of a Failed Baker. I wrote everything. The bakery. The fall. The plan. The betrayal. I didn't even care who read it. I just needed it out of my head. 3 weeks later, I got a visitor. Not a lawyer. Not a cop. Jerry's sister. She sat across from me in my kitchen like it was just another Thursday. He told me everything, she said. That makes one of us. She looked me dead in the eye. He owed money. Big money. People you don't say no to. So he sold me out? She nodded. It was you or him. I laughed. A bitter, empty laugh. And he picked the guy with the cinnamon rolls. She didn't smile. But there's more, she said. Turns out Jerry had borrowed a lot of money from some very unpleasant people. And when he couldn't pay, they started looking at his family. His sister, his nephew. The works. He went to the cops not out of civic duty, but to cut a deal. He handed me over like a dog dropping off a chew toy in exchange for a pat on the head. She told me she was sorry. I believed her. She looked like she hadn't slept in a month. She also told me Jerry disappeared. Not arrested. Not killed. Just gone. Vanished the day after I was let go. So now here I am. In county. They picked me up a few weeks later after finding another version of my notes buried in a laptop I'd forgotten to wipe. Real amateur hour stuff. They threw a few more charges my way. Nothing heavy, but enough to make bail unaffordable and trial look far away. The food's terrible. The beds are worse. But you get used to it. Jail, it turns out, is just like high school with worse hygiene. There's a pecking order, a routine, and always that one guy who thinks he's smarter than the guards. He isn't. Keep my head down. I read a lot. I write more. I've started trading handwritten poems for extra packets of instant coffee. Call it prison economics. I even wrote a limerick that made a guy laugh so hard he gave me half his cornbread. I'm basically thriving. The irony isn't lost on me. I wanted to rob a bank because I was broke. Now I live in a place where everything's free, and I've got more free time than I ever had behind that bakery counter. Sometimes I dream about dough. Not metaphorical dreams, real dreams. I smell yeast. I hear the whir of the old mixer. I watch the cinnamon swirl itself into perfect spirals. I wake up drooling. Then I remember where I am. Jerry's sister writes me letters sometimes. I think it's guilt. Or maybe she just wants to feel close to someone who knew her brother before he disappeared. Her handwriting is neat and slanted like she learned it from a Catholic school nun. She includes newspaper clippings and dumb jokes. Last week, she sent me a photo of Taco sleeping on a couch. Belly up. Made my whole damn week. One of the guards told me I should turn my notes into a book. Said, "You're like one of those gritty redemption stories. Like Shawshank but with carbs." So I'm working on it. Broken Plans, title pending. Might add a subtitle. How not to rob a bank, or anything else. What do I want out of all this? Hell if I know. I guess I want someone to read this and realize that desperation is a hell of a drug. That it makes you see bad ideas as noble ones, and turns kitchen failures into criminal fantasies. I don't know how much time I'll serve. Might get out in a few months. Might get community service. Maybe I'll teach baking at a halfway house or some youth program. Wouldn't that be something? But even if none of that happens, I've got this pencil, this paper, this story, and Taco. So yeah, that's my story. From baker to almost bank robber to county jail author. Dreams die funny, don't they? But here's the thing. Even in this cell, I still have a voice. Still have a story to tell. And some nights, when the lights go out and the noise dies down, I swear I can still smell warm bread.